If you enjoy listening to inspirational stories from people just like us, facing the fear and doing it anyway, then you're in the right place. My name is Claire Hill, and this is the No Rest for the Vivid podcast. Hello, welcome to another episode of No Rest for the Vivid podcast. And today I have the amazing Natalie Binns. This was I love all of the interviews that I do for the podcast, but this conversation was really, really cool. We talked about clothes, fast fashion, how to be more sustainable. And what I actually wanted to talk to her about is how you can make your small business more sustainable. We didn't get to it because we were talking about all these other amazing things. So she's coming back on the podcast. I hope you enjoy this episode. As I always say, if you enjoyed it, please subscribe and share. And definitely share this one. There's so many important messages about sustainability in this one, and just tips of how you can approach sustainability with your clothes and, you know, still feel amazing in those clothes too. All right, enjoy. Good morning, Natalie. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, really, really good. Thank you so much for coming on today. Really, really appreciate it. You are here because of our wonderful mutual friend, Rebecca. She likes to be called now. She did, actually I call her Bex, but she wants to be a bit posher now and be called a proper name.
Okay, fair enough. Rebecca, yeah, Bex, yeah.
But it's so lovely to have you. And I think that what you're going to bring to today's episode is something that we haven't really spoken about. Well, I have spoken about it a little bit, but not in the same way that you're going to talk about it. So would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Natalie. I'm a sustainable fashion consultant. Well, that's what I call myself, but I don't know. I'm different things to different people, really. I run a business that kind of helps brands and businesses be more sustainable. And I also help startups start sustainable businesses, sustainable fashion brands. But also alongside that, I do a bit of lecturing. I've been on the radio talking about sustainability, and I'm really into conscious consumption. So I talk about that on social media quite a lot. So I'm a kind of like passionate about sustainability and business. That's probably the best way of putting it. I don't know.
No, I love that. It's like a multi-passionate sort of business, but then I'm guessing your mission is just like be sustainable with this is our planet, etc.
Yeah, my mission is to help people make more sustainable choices when it comes to fashion. And so then I help brands be the conscious choice, and I help people make the conscious choice.
So how did it all start? Where did you begin? Where does your story start? I always feel like, what's the love story of your business?
Well, the crazy thing is that it actually started in fast fashion.
Right.
So I worked as a buyer for about 15 years before I started my business. And I'd say maybe about 10 years in was when I started to get really, really passionate about sustainability. I started out at ASOS actually.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, back in the day when fast fashion wasn't called fast fashion then. It was like we hadn't cottoned on that it was a really terrible thing, and it was like it was actually still like, oh yeah, it's amazing how quickly we can see trends on the catwalk and then, you know, put them in store, and everyone was like, that's amazing, you know.
Yeah. And was this back in the day when ASOS was known as seen on screen?
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
I remember my first purchase because Sarah Jessica Parker had these boots on, and I saw them in a magazine, and I was like, I've got to have them. And I went, oh yeah, there's that new website.
Yeah,
and then they had these boots like her boots, and they were like, my first purchase.
I know, it's crazy. Back in the day, we used to do kind of like as seen on this celebrity. Or what was it now, in the style of this celebrity. So you were basically saying, you know, you've copied these boots or whatever it was. But I think the reason we got away with it was because it was like it wasn't that close, you know. It was actually, you know, and a lot of times later on, when I first started working there, it was like, yeah, we've tried to do a version of whoever's dress. But later on, what actually happened was we realized that if it was in the style of a celebrity, it sold better. So what we used to do, we developed clothing, fashion, whatever, and then we'd go searching for a celebrity to match to what we'd designed. So that,
Oh, really?
yeah,
That's good.
yeah,
That's really good business idea, but not good
yeah.
for the planet. But yeah.
No, but what it was like, we've designed a red dress. Let's just find a celebrity in a red dress that's kind of similar to this,
Oh,
and then that would
wow.
help to boost the sales. But then, of
Yeah.
course, that kind of the idea of that died out because it became not cool to be copying what anyone was doing. So
Yeah.
they got rid of that part.
So you were in ASOS, okay, as seen on screen. There's going to be some people going like, "What ASOS? Is that what ASOS stands
Yeah,
for?"
it used to be called. I know, because I mean, not when I first worked there, it had switched to fashion only, really. But when it first came out, it was like you could watch Hollyoaks and there'd be a lava lamp in the back, and you could buy that lava lamp. Like, that's what
Yeah,
it was. And then
yeah.
it evolved into being fashion, and then we got a new director who was very, very much about the fashion, and we got rid of the celebrity part and just started focusing on true fashion, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah.
so you were working there and fast fashion. Was there sort of like a feeling of like a little bit of a trend where it was going, this isn't actually that good, fast fashion?
Yeah. So when I first started in 2007, Zara was kind of getting really big. And what was say I remember being at uni and they were saying that Zara was amazing. It was like a great benchmark for how fashion should be. Like they see the catwalk, they redesign it into something for their stores and in stores in 6 weeks or something. And it was like, this is a brilliant model. This is the business of the future kind of thing. And I think ASOS was the only one that was doing it online at the time. So it was kind of like we were like the first of our kind. And then maybe a couple of years in, a few people started opening like Boohoo. Also, Primark was getting really big at that time as well. And then the focus switched from fashion to price. And I
Right.
feel like that's when the fast fashion model started to get really out of hand because rather than just being like, oh, we need to do this like amazing collection that's, inspired by the catwalk, we were like, oh, we actually have to do the cheapest collection that's inspired by the catwalk. And then it was kind of like with that, it was like, oh, how cheap can we go? And there were layers and layers and layers to our price points, which meant that the ranges were getting bigger and bigger.
Right. Okay.
So that's when I feel like then the competition was getting greater because more and more online stores started opening because
Yeah.
people realized that if you have an online store, you don't have as many overheads. So, yeah. So then as they started opening and thinking, oh, we have no overheads, we can do things cheaper, then the prices were getting driven down. So by the time I left in 2012, I mean, I always tell this story that I had a best-selling top that was £25 and I got asked to do it for 18 and then I got asked to do one for 15 and then by the time I left they were asking me to do the same type of thing for £12. That's my bosses were asking me for that. And that was when I was like, absolutely, this is not what I signed up for. I loved fashion and I loved the joy of fashion. And before that, it had been about fashion and trends and doing something new and exciting all the time.
Yeah.
And it felt creative and it felt like that's what fashion is meant to be, creative. And even though it was affordable, it wasn't about churning out loads of stuff cheaply. And then the model just started to change as the competition grew, I suppose. And yeah, so in 2012 was when I feel like I realized that this isn't really ideal. But even then, I don't really remember that much scrutiny about what we were doing. I think it still took at least another 5 years before there was major scrutiny and people were talking about the negative effects of fast fashion.
Yeah, and I think wasn't around that time there was a document. I swear there was a documentary on BBC about whether it was that long ago, showcasing the island in the Pacific with all the plastic, and then they were showing the factories of all of these clothes and.
Yeah, so there was the True Cost documentary, and then also I remember Stacey Dooley did a documentary because I remember she had like these piles of like bottles of water, and she was saying, how many bottles of water do you think it takes to make a t-shirt? And people were kind of like piling up, and then the answer was like 2,500 like liters of water or something.
Whoa,
like that.
It's not. Is it that much?
Yeah, well. Interesting. That's been debunked, actually.
Okay.
That's a whole other level of sustainability and things that I work on now as debunking facts like that
Yeah.
aren't really true. But yeah, I remember then there was starting to be growing, yeah, there's this kind of growing consciousness that actually what happens to the clothes, who's making it, how many resources are we using? And yeah, around 2016 was when I moved back to the UK after living in Australia. And that's when I was like, right, I don't want to do this fast fashion thing anymore.
Yeah, just it doesn't feel good at all.
Yeah, not at all. Not at all. Yeah.
So how did you branch into, were you like listening to people in the industry of they recognized that there was an issue, but they had no way to understand how to become more conscious and of their consumption? Is that sort of where it led into?
Yeah, so I think it started when I moved to Australia. So after ASOS in 2012, I moved to Australia and I lived there for 4.5 years there or thereabouts. And I feel like living by the ocean and things like that, they were a little bit more conscious of things. And I got really into secondhand shopping. I've always been into kind of vintage shopping and rummaging and things like that, but I really like grew to love it again when I got to Australia. Um, there's lots of things that people just put their clothes outside their house and just have a little stall and just sell their old clothes. It's like really common to just pass on your old stuff and have flea
Yeah.
markets. And so I feel like when I was there was when I started to think a bit more about not having so much stuff. And for me personally as well, I had the biggest clear out when I moved because I couldn't take hardly anything with me, and I was disgusted by how much stuff I had.
Right.
I think I did clear out. I was selling stuff on ASOS Marketplace. I was selling stuff on eBay. I was having friends over and saying, take what you want. I was taking stuff to charity. And still, the last weekend before I moved, I took 9 black sacks of clothing, really great clothing, to charity.
Wow.
It was insane because of working in the industry and
Yeah,
all
of
the free clothes
course.
you get and everything. And I just said to myself, I never want to be in this situation again. It just felt gross.
Yeah.
And then getting to Australia and seeing this sort of slightly different way of life where people buy a lot of secondhand clothing and pass their clothing on. I guess I got more conscious then.
Mm.
And then when I moved back in 2016, I just felt like, oh, I don't want to go back into that place where I have so much stuff, I'm constantly buying. And yeah, I started to think a little bit more about ways that I could be more sustainable in my life. Kind of how I'd been in Australia, because Australia is just such a different way of life. You buy a lot of fresh food, you buy a lot of in season food. You can't, if you try and buy food that's out of season, it's really expensive. I learned that the hard way when I bought some tomatoes in, I don't know, August, which is their winter, and they were like $7 a kilo or something. I was like, why is my shopping so expensive? And it was because of the tomatoes. So I came back and I kind of wanted to live like that still. Fewer kind of chemical cleaning products and all of that kind of stuff. And then fashion wise, I couldn't get into sustainable fashion because there just weren't that many jobs. They're all tiny brands. So I kind of did a few different jobs until I got made redundant 3 years later, 2019. And then that was when I was like, okay, well, if I can't find a job, I'm going to have to create a job. So I started my consultancy. And
amazing.
yeah, here we are.
And so like that, I love how it built up its momentum for you. It's like it was this idea that's just grew and grew and grew, and then it sort of like burst into this, actually you can make a career out of being this passionate and helping other brands. It's such a meaningful job, really, because I think that there's so many. Sometimes you think, I'm an artist and a coach, and sometimes I think, oh God, I wish I could be even better. But there's always going to be some kind of way. So I try really, really hard not to have it. But having no knowledge, like when you've got into this and the fact that it is fashion that's sort of like your primary expertise, how you start becoming more conscious it must be, because straight away I'm thinking, if you're a fashion brand, you want to be more conscious, your profit margins are impacted so much. So that sort of like first year of business that you're trying to get off the ground, but
Yeah.
you know that you're going into a business, it's going to cost you more to run than any, you know, than another business that's in your maybe competing with you. That must be, you must work with very dedicated business owners.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, it's really hard. It's and I do work with people sometimes who come to me and say, "Oh, I really want to start a sustainable fashion brand. You know, I've seen a gap in the market for, I don't know, whatever it might be, tracksuits, and I want to do the most sustainable version of a tracksuit." And quite often people say, "Oh, I want it to be affordable." And I said, okay, well, let's get into it. And then we start to get into it. And then they realize that there's a reason why there's a gap in the market for that. And that's because what we deem affordable is, you know, it's based on slave labor, it's based on, you know, child labor and exploitation. And to actually sell clothes for as cheaply as we're used to buying them, they're not made well, and they're not made from great materials, and to actually do it all the right way it costs money. So it's really difficult to have that, you know, that's why there is still a gap for that kind of affordable ethical brand, but as we know, there's a true cost to everything you buy. So I think it's trying to change the mindset of the consumer that when you buy something for, you know, buy a dress for £10, it costs you £10, but there was an impact on the planet and an impact on people, you know, in the supply chain. But it's difficult because, I mean, even now, everything that we're going through, cost of living crisis, you know, people do need affordable options. But then at the same time, what we've noticed is a lot of the people that are spending all of this money on fast fashion aren't people who are buying it because it's all they can afford. It's people who are just buying excess. So that's kind of one of the messages I try and get across, is about buying what you need. And I actually try not to focus too much on price when I'm trying to say to people, how can you change your habits? Or even to focus on where you shop, really, because even though, you know, I might say that Pretty Little Thing is the worst place, you know, in terms of ethics, you know, if you buy something from there and you love it and keep it forever, and, you know, or sell it on to your friend or swap it with a mate or whatever, and it stays in circulation, and you don't buy that much, you just buy what you need, then we'd be in a better position overall.
Yeah, I was working with one of my clients recently, and normally I coach business owners, but she's a life coach. I coach her life. I don't know what else you would say, actually. Yeah, I coach her life. But I'd give her like support about that. And one of the things was we realised, and I know you'll be listening, I won't name you, I'll just speak to her directly. I know you'll be listening, I won't name you, but we went through this process where her home was feeling so it wasn't a nice place for her to live. She didn't feel safe there, well, she did feel safe, but she didn't feel like it was the best version of a home for her. And she said, you know, I've got a lot of stuff in these cupboards, and I know that, you know, I can imagine what a lot of stuff is, but then I went round, and I've never seen wardrobes as packed, and there were bags of clothes where she'd got them and hadn't sent them back because you know, she's not sent them back in time. They're still in, like, you know, they're still in their bags. And I was like, there's a reason why you're doing this. And I think that's, you know, she was feeling a little bit lost in herself, was trying to comfort herself with buying things, because that sense of, like, you get that euphoria, don't you, of like, oh, well, I'm going to look sensational in that, I can't wait to wear it, and that feeling is amazing. Then when it comes, it doesn't look like what it does on the model because it's not properly made, or you can't see the clips that are holding that dress in place behind to make it look right. Like, I always use, like, if I ever do buy anything from ASOS, I always look at the video or see how it moves, because if that picture isn't like exactly somebody standing straight, I'm like, oh, that's not cut right. That they're trying to hide that fact. So anyway, so I was just like looking, you know, what is the reason for this? Think about what is going to make you feel better, having a wardrobe where you've got clothes, every single thing in there you love, you can't wait you're excited to wear every single element, and
Yeah.
you can see all of it. You can plan your outfits. She was like, yeah, that's what I want. Anyway, she sold so much. She's made so
Really?
much money from all these clothes, plus giving loads to charity. And this is the thing, like, I remember not sending some things like when I used to be a teacher, and I'd be like, oh, but that suit cost me so much money, but
Yeah,
couldn't sell it. So I was like, go and make someone else be free, go to charity, like make someone else get a new
absolutely.
job. But how light she feels now because of the energy of not seeing all of that.
Yeah.
It wasn't really crap, some of it was really good, but just
Yeah.
all of that. And it's just
Yeah.
working out, like, why have you got that much stuff?
Yeah.
And I think that's fast fashion has sort of made a market out of people using clothes to fix their self-esteem, and it doesn't work, does it? It's
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
it's a bit exploitative. Is that how you say it? Exploit, yeah, that, you know that word.
Exploitative,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's it. In that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. They market to your insecurities,
Mm.
100%. It's all about, basically you can be this person because they use influencer marketing, celebrity marketing. You can be this person if you buy this dress, is what they're trying to sell you. And the dress isn't going to change who you are at all, aside from it maybe not looking the same on you. It's not going to change your personality. It's not going to suddenly fill your bank account. It's not going to, it's not going to give you a
No.
promotion, any of those things that you want. It's not going to give you the status. Um, I definitely relate to having so much stuff around me and then feeling like I don't want to live like that anymore because,
Mm.
and now I'm really conscious about the things that I bring into my home, even when it comes to art on the walls and things like that. I've lived in this flat a year and I don't have that much art. And it's because I'm really, really conscious about choosing exactly what I want when I choose a plant. It's like, where is it going to go? What do I, and I feel really good about every decision I made. And then my house becomes a home really slowly. And each piece, I'm like, when I sit at this table, I think, I love this table because I
Yeah.
took the time to find the right table rather than just, some people just buy things and then go, oh, I'll replace it later. But I'd rather just wait.
No.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I
but
love that.
it's really hard to get out of the habit though, when you're in the habit of
Mm.
just constantly buying things and impulse buying things. But I try to share on my Instagram kind of tips to help people when they're in that initial part of the journey. I'd say I'm really evolved from where I was 4 or 5 years ago. And things like I actually shop a lot online, but I put it all in Pinterest, so I don't actually buy anything. So I go shopping. I could spend hours shopping
Oh,
and
wow.
just putting it all in Pinterest. And I've got like a home one, I've got a clothes one, and it's like you get I also add it to my basket. I add things to my basket, but I just don't check out. So I'm getting that kind of dopamine hit of like, oh, I love this, I love this, I love this, and adding it to my basket. And then I also save it to my Pinterest so that if it falls out of my basket, I've still got it.
Yeah.
And then I kind of go, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I've made a massive list. I've got all these things in my basket. Right, let me work out exactly what I'm going to buy, and then I'll come back tomorrow. And then I don't. I just
Yeah.
forget.
Yeah. And
And then yeah,
that's my test. If I can't
yeah,
stop thinking about it, then
yeah.
I buy it. Like, I'm in the process. My husband wants to buy me some Doc Martens for my birthday because I haven't got a pair of boots at the moment. And
Yeah,
this way I literally wear boots every day until my
yeah,
feet start sweating. And he was like, I really think let's buy you a pair of Doc Martens because they're going to last you a decade.
yeah,
You won't need to. But it's that, like, yeah, I can't actually. I must think about these pair of Doc Martens like
yeah,
once an hour, every hour. I
yeah,
still haven't
yeah.
bought them though. They're still sitting in the basket. I
It's
know
funny.
that I will.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because I'm looking for a pair of Doc Martens as well. And do you know what? I've got a pair of Doc Martens. It's driving me crazy. I had a pair of Doc Martens, and I feel like they've been lost in a house move or like probably one of my parents' house moves. So I think
Oh,
that they were in my parents' garage for a while because they were muddy or something, and then I don't know what's happened to them. And
oh,
and the reason why I won't buy them, and I've really been thinking about this for like at least a year, is because
wow.
in my head I keep thinking, maybe they'll turn up at my mum and dad's, or maybe I could just go and have a big search and I'll just find them.
Yeah.
So that's what's putting me off. But actually, I did decide this week, do you know what? I'm just going to buy them. And I actually, do you know what? I'm going to message my parents today and just say, can you just 100% check you haven't got them?
Yeah.
And then if not,
yeah. Let me say, but this is the history of Doc Martens, though. It's like but that's the thing. You're investing in a brand that is very sustainable. They are conscious about sustainability.
Oh, they're brilliant. Yeah.
And they make things that you like, you buy one pair of boots, they're not after. This is really good for any business. And I'm sure you talk about this. It's like, have your prices where we just want you to buy once. I've got my godfather's wife has about 10-15 pairs because she's obsessed, because she's addicted to them now. But she tells me all of the different names and how they're made. Like, she is obsessed. But they're beautifully made shoes, and then you put your foot in one, and I tried some on the other weekend. I was like, I've never felt my foot. This is amazing. But being that kind of like, when you're thinking about your ideal customer, and it's going back to when you were talking about art, another one of my clients is doing a launch soon, and she's trying to move into that upper price bracket of, I am an artist. I don't want to make things for a $5, like $5 Fridays and $10 Tuesdays in the handmade product world. Do my head in, absolutely do my head in. And it's like, fast fashion have done the same. They've broken the formula and the culture of how you see products, because I make my everything from hand with my bare hands, and I make that deserves the worth, because when you buy it, it's going to last you forever. You invest in it. That's brilliant. So that my clients, I'm trying to get her into that upper price bracket, and she moves away, but it's changing the whole culture of how you see what you buy, isn't it? And the pricing of it.
It's all about value. And it's interesting, actually, because I feel like this cheap fashion, people often say, like, oh, people have less money to spend these days, and that's why cheap fashion has come about. But actually, what used to happen when I was younger, and my family didn't always have loads of money, things like uniform resales at school, every year group would bring their uniform, and you'd also pass it down to the next year group, basically. Making clothes, of course, having one dress for all of your weddings, or all of your best dress. My mum would make me a dress that I would wear to every party that I went to. There was none of this kind of like wearing something different every time you go somewhere. And it takes ages to get out of that culture. I actually started a hashtag on Instagram about a couple of years ago called Grid Repeater, because it was about wearing the same thing on the grid, on the Instagram grid, because that's part of it as well. It's not being want to be seen on social media. People don't want to be seen wearing the same thing on social media because of influencer culture. And so the idea that actually you can wear the same thing on the grid over and over again, and I consciously wear the same, like post photos of myself wearing the same things on my grid to be like, you've seen this before, because I wear it all the time. And posting, a carousel of photos of me wearing the same thing. And occasionally I get bored. I must say, at the moment, I'm a little bit bored of my wardrobe, and I've also grown out of a few things. So I feel like I don't have as many choices, but then you can make a conscious decision to say, do you know what? I wear this dress to death. And so maybe I do need a second option for this kind of occasion. It's a super conscious choice.
But it's finding that choice, like you say, taking your time. Like, there was, I think, my pivotal thing about outfits, not that I really go out that much anymore, but when I think it was back in April, I remember that we were going out for our friend's birthday, and I've got this one bright green dress. It's got like red on it. It's a wrap dress. It's like a plissé material. It's like, I think that's how you say it. It's not pissy. But that, like,
please say.
That's it. So I love it. I love this dress, and I've worn it so many times. Like, I actually, like, literally have worn it so many times. And I went to go and put it on. I thought, but I've worn it so many times. Maybe I should wear something else. And then in my head was like, who are you wearing something else for? Are you wearing something else for your friends that have seen this dress and they love you, and they're not going to love you any less because you've got the same dress on? Or are you wearing it, like wear it for me because there's no other dress that makes me feel like that. I'm going to wear that dress, even though I do need to repair it. I'm still going to wear it, and I'm going to repair it, and I'm going to keep wearing it. But there was like a switch. Like, who are you wearing the dress for?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I've noticed that I wear the same things all the time, but I feel really good. I
Yeah,
don't often go out the house feeling like, oh, not sure about this outfit because I'm so secure in that I know that I feel good in this outfit because I've worn it so many times.
yeah.
And just changing things up, wearing things different ways. I did a speaking thing at a sustainability summit a couple of weeks ago, and I wore my jumpsuit that I wear to everything with big chunky boots. And then I wore the same jumpsuit about 4 days later to a wedding with silver heels and a clutch bag and drop earrings. And I really loved that night actually, because I remember just thinking, I would have bought something new for this normally. It's a wedding. And I felt really pleased with myself that I hadn't bought something new. But I also really loved my outfit because I just love that jumpsuit so much and feel so
Yeah.
comfortable in it.
And that's the thing, because then you feel more confident when you feel comfy. Like, it's just,
Yeah.
I suppose with shoes, it's like I would wear the same pair of heels out because they're really
Yeah.
comfy. Why do we not always feel like the same way about a dress? Because it
Yeah.
feels, or, a top or jeans or,
Exactly. It's strange. And I've found that the wardrobe mistakes that I make are things where I try and buy something because I just need something new and I want that dopamine hit, or I want to look like someone else. I've seen someone wearing it. And then usually they're the things that I wear once or twice. And then I'm like, this isn't actually my style. It doesn't really
yeah.
suit me. It's not. And they're the things that just languish in your wardrobe. And then every now and again you wear it because you feel like you should, and then you don't feel great in it. So I actually love repeating things. And one thing I've noticed actually is that no one notices that you're wearing the same thing. The same people compliment me on the same thing. Oh, like your jumpsuit. That's nice. Is that new? And I'm like, I wear it every time. Like I wear it every time. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's like it's almost like it feels like a little like trick.
Yeah,
Like I'm
yeah.
wearing the same thing and nobody's noticed.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
Um,
I love that. That's what
yeah.
I try and, like, I've really minimized my wardrobe, but I put it in like rainbow color. I
Oh,
do
nice.
wear, like, I've noticed without even realizing, I literally wear animal print every single day.
Oh,
But
wow.
it's like I now have like rainbow of animal print. It's not all just like
Yeah. Oh,
leopard.
amazing.
But
Yeah.
opening my wardrobe, but the way that I've done that is through Vinted. So I will come up with
Ah,
something. So not that long ago, I was like, I'd really love like it sounds awful as I say it though, like a purple leopard shirt. So I've got a purple leopard
okay.
dress. I know it
Okay,
does
yeah.
sound like I love. And then so I thought, oh, let's just see. And that's what I love about Vinted. I will just go purple leopard shirt. Oh, there's one there for a
Yeah.
fiver. Brilliant. I'm having that. And I love the fact that, like, I really love Topshop. And obviously Topshop's probably not that sustainable, but I love buying secondhand Topshop because,
Yeah.
I could get so many shirts and blouses for like work and whatever for like
Yeah.
£2 sometimes. £2, and it's
Old
perfect.
old Topshop was really good. Before again, they're another company that I mean I could go on about Topshop for hours, but they
Yeah,
are another
I've
company that I just feel like lost their way because
yeah,
when ASOS came along and Boohoo came along and people like that, they tried to follow on price and actually they forgot that their core customer wants fashion and fashion editors used to shop in Topshop because their stuff you could mix in with designer and it looked cool and
yeah,
it wasn't badly made. And then they started to cut costs and corners and it started to get more badly made and the fashion wasn't really there. And I don't know if you've seen the documentary, The Trouble at Topshop, but I watched that and I just felt really sad because it was just all going so well and then it just went downhill.
yeah. No, I
But
haven't, but I'm going to watch that.
yeah, definitely watch it. It's actually really good because I think it sort of like hits the nail on the head of where we went wrong on the high street in the UK because
Mm,
everything that happened with Topshop, I feel like is what happened across the board is we just went after price and we stopped going after fashion and thinking about clothes as value and making us feel good. And the people at the top of Topshop when it was in its heyday were all women. And I must say, it was Philip Green came in and kind of started to talk about price and started to interfere in, what women want. And these amazing women who are at the helm knew what women wanted. And then it's like a businessman comes in and says, yeah, but what about the money? How much does it cost? How much does it cost? And kind of beat the kind of like that kind of fashion and creativity out of them. And one by one, they all left. And yeah, Topshop ended up not working out.
No, didn't ASOS buy them?
ASOS did buy, ASOS bought them the online kind of business. Yeah, bought the name, which is absolutely crazy because when I worked at ASOS in 2007, the one thing we wanted was to get Topshop on the website. From 2007 to 2012, when I worked there, we would have dreamed of having Topshop on the website. And there was absolutely no way they were ever going to sell to us because we were such a big competitor and we were the underdog. And they were like, haha, never going to happen. And then look what happened. It's actually crazy, isn't it? It's just, I have a lot of,
God.
Yeah. I have a lot of nostalgia for that time because Karen Downey, who's in the documentary, she was from Topshop and she came to ASOS and she really injected that kind of spirit of be creative with fashion. It's about making women look good and, I want to see beautiful prints. I want them to, love it. I want them to come to us because they're seeing something they've not seen anywhere else. And that really made me like understand the joy of fashion. And the same thing happened at ASOS though, the kind of businessmen at the top kind of came in and went, price though, how much does it cost though, and yeah, the rest is history really.
And that's the thing as well, and I'm sure with some of your clients, you've got to still price your worth, like really see your value, because what you're selling is a piece of clothing, but you're not selling the piece of clothing, you're selling the feeling associated, and that's where they miss it. You're selling the feeling that gives them, or the confidence of maybe they're going to wear it on their first date and they're going to meet the love of their life, or they're going to wear it to a job interview they're really scared about, but that piece of clothing is going to give them that feeling of confidence and empowerment. That's what you sell as a brand, as a clothing brand, not the actual clothes. And the more value there and the feeling of it. Another one of my clients makes she's in Australia and she hand crochets all of these beautiful baby clothes and toddler clothes from natural fibers. And she realized why she does it is because she recognizes that when a child feels safe and comfortable in their clothing, they learn better because they're more, because clothing can make you feel safe and comfy. It's like we were saying, like, you feel more confident when you wear something comfortable because you probably feel safe, don't you? So she was like, oh my God, I've nailed it. I know why I'm doing this. And I was like, it's that kind of element of recognizing what you sell outside of that. And that's where these brands just went, because it's not, they just saw it as the garment, didn't they? And then,
or even the other way around, they see it as selling the dream, but the garment is terrible. The actual garment is terrible. So they dress it up on a shoot, it looks amazing on a shoot, and then when you get it, it's like this slither of fabric that's not doing anything for you. So it's one or the other, or they're trying to fill a box. They're like, oh, we need 10 dresses, here's 10 dresses. They're not thinking about where are you going in these dresses, how do you want to feel in these dresses. We always talk about in fashion, where have all the pockets gone? Why do women's clothes have no pocket? And honestly, from working in fast fashion, I'll tell you the pockets have gone because of cost. First thing to take out is the pockets. The first sample of anything I've ever sampled always has pockets. Designers will always put the pockets in there. We love a big swishy dress with a pocket and, one hand in a pocket photo moment. And then as a buyer, when you get the cost price and you go, oh, my margin's not that great, start taking things off. So then that's when you start going, can we reduce this? Can we reduce the sleeve length? Can we make this a bit slimmer? Can we, even the ties, if you put a tie around the waist, can we make that shorter? It doesn't need to be that long. Take the pockets out. Number one, take the
Wow.
pockets out. It's a
I
cost
can't believe
thing.
it because, like, when I got married, I searched high and low for a wedding dress with pockets. And that's why I bought my wedding
Yes.
dress. I was literally,
Yeah.
like, looking back now, it probably wasn't the most flattering one I had on, but I had pockets because I had my lipstick in one, I had
Yeah,
tissues in
yeah,
the other,
yeah,
and it
yeah.
was brilliant. But I searched for that. And actually, I must go on about it quite a lot because some of my followers, whenever there's like a meme about pockets, they send it to
Oh,
me.
really?
I'm like, oh, I love a pocket. But I would pay extra money
To
for
have the
some,
pockets.
for the pockets. Yeah, I
I
love them.
know. Yeah,
Silly.
it's
They,
normally yeah, de-specking is one of the things I used to have to do as a buyer that I hated. Was like go into the fit session, put the garment on, go, yeah, this is beautiful, love it as it is, but it's too expensive, so what can we do? So then it was like looking at it and going, okay, well, it doesn't need that, or it doesn't need that, or we could do, what about these buttons? How much are the buttons? Can we get cheaper buttons? You'd
wow.
get these beautiful tortoise shell buttons on the first sample, and then by the end, it's a shadow of its former self.
That's
Um,
so sad because I
yeah, it's
really
really
think that
sad.
like that is fashion. Fashion is basically you dressing yourself in art, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah, should be. And actually, I remember as a buyer in fast fashion, I used to get to take samples home all the time, and I'd take home the first sample because it'd be beautiful. The one that I wouldn't be interested in, the thing that had finally gone to production, because all
Wow.
the nice things had, the metal zip is now a plastic zip. All of those things. It's really
Wow.
sad. I'm so glad I don't do that anymore.
I bet. Guys, it's so interesting though. I could talk to you about
Mm.
I love all that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
when I was doing my research, I read about your blog about this pledge that you made
Oh yeah.
about being more conscious. Um, I'd love and the point of the blog is that being this conscious takes a lot of extra time.
Yeah.
And I think that that's where some people, I mean, I always say, like, if this is the only thing you need to worry about, you've got a really good life. Like I always say that if you've only got to worry about recycling and sustainability, but that is why, if that's the only thing you need to worry about, we need to do it for everybody else and
Yeah.
like embody it as much as we can, even if it does take us a little bit more time. But is there stuff to like edge in if somebody's listening to this and thinking, you know what, I do really want to be either a more sustainable business, but even on it's probably got to start with the individual.
Yeah.
How can they become more conscious in a fashion way?
So I always say just start small. It's small changes. My first thing I did was buy less. That was my number one thing. So just don't buy as much as you usually do, and try and use those tips like putting things in a wish list, putting things in Pinterest, to get that so that you can kind of let the dopamine wear off and the feeling of impulse wear off, and then see if you still love it a day later, a week later. Um, Also, I used to, when I first was still in that kind of like impulse buying thing, anything I bought, I would leave it by the front door in the bag, and I would leave it there until I actually wore it somewhere. So even if
Oh,
I put it on and then went, oh, I'm not going to wear it today, I'd put it back in the bag and put it by the front door. And then you just keep walking past it. And then eventually you're like, I'm never going to wear this, am I? And then one day you just pick it up as you're walking out the door and take it back.
wow,
Um,
that's a really good tip.
Yeah, so it's kind of like it's kind of catching yourself in that impulse
Mm,
moment. So at first it's like, okay, I'm still going to buy it. So trying to think, okay, I'll take it back. Then it's trying to catch yourself and say, okay, I'm not going to buy it this time. Going back into your wardrobe is so important. Just like doing a clear out, like you say, you've got yours in rainbow order, whatever
mm.
feels right for you, so that you can see everything. I personally don't put winter clothes away and
No,
summer
I
clothes
don't.
away really, because I like to see everything. Like things go to the back and things come to the front, but I think if I can't fit it in my wardrobe, then I probably shouldn't own it because
Yeah,
I'm never going to wear it.
absolutely. And also, I think wear things all year round. I just wear tops or tights with like, this is what I say to
Same.
my client who I sorted their
Yeah.
wardrobe. She was like, that's a summer dress. And I was like, why is it just summer?
Why is
Wear
it
a
a
top
summer dress?
underneath, wear a
Yeah.
big cardigan and put tights on.
Yeah.
That it's a dress for all year.
Yeah, there's very little stuff that you can't wear all year. Obviously, knitwear in summer and,
Yeah.
shorts in winter.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I try and at least have it visible or it has a spot in my wardrobe kind of thing. But yeah, so buying less, I mean, everyone's got time to buy less because that's going to free up some time.
Yeah.
And then when you do buy, think about buying something that's slightly better. So whether that's a cleaning product, whether that's clothing, just try and do like a swap. For me, I kind of started to think about not buying so much from fast fashion brands. You know, Pretty Little Thing, Boohoo went out a long time ago. Zara actually was a really hard one to get rid of, but now when I go into Zara, it's like feels like a foreign country because it's weird. I remember for years I just couldn't get rid of Zara because it was just such a habit of going in there. And you can find some great pieces in there as well. But then I don't know. I think I started to really think about who was making the clothes. And then once I got to that point, I managed to phase Zara out. And like one of the things is, so I suppose when you get to that point, it's kind of like slowly phase out some of the not as good places and start to focus on quality rather than quantity.
Yeah.
And then the kind of next phase, I suppose, is to start to think secondhand rather than new. But again, that's a time consuming thing. But I use things like eBay alerts to find things. So that, I always use this example of my organic cotton white jeans that I've been looking for like 3 years. I've got an alert on it.
Wow.
And every time a size 28 organic cotton white jean goes on eBay, I get an alert. And so,
so cool. I didn't even know that you could do that.
Yeah, it's amazing. You can do it on Vinted as well, I think.
Wow.
You can save your search and then it will prompt you when something goes online. So then that's like a time saving thing, because then what will happen is I'll go into shops and I'll be like, oh, look at these white jeans, love these white jeans. And then I'll just go on eBay, search for it, might not find it, and then I set up an alert, and then it means that when things come in, then you see it straight away rather than actively searching. The stuff's finding you.
Magic. That is magic. That's literally changed my life.
Yeah,
Oh my God, I love that so much.
It's amazing. And then charity shopping, actually, I always say go little and often. So don't go charity shopping thinking I need something for a wedding. I go to charity shops when I do my food shop. There's a really amazing charity shop next to Sainsbury's where I live. So I tend to pop in there most times when I go to Sainsbury's. Pop in, have a quick look around, don't spend more than like 20 minutes. And then the more you go, the more you're like, oh, I've seen all this before, and you spot the new stuff. And that's a better way of doing it than trying to shop for something, you know, because then that's when you get disappointed and then you end up going, oh, there's nothing here, I'm going to Zara. But if you're constantly thinking ahead and just making it part of your way of life, I suppose, rather than I must go today. But yeah, little changes really. Like I used to use I used to refill my laundry liquid. Just my laundry liquid, nothing else. And then I started being like, well, I'm in the refill shop, I may as well refill my washing up liquid, and then you just start to make little changes. But I think it's small things rather than perfection. And my number one thing is just buy less than you're buying now. Most people are buying too much and owning too much. So buy less. That doesn't take any time. Try and buy something slightly better that's going to last longer. I also think about resale value. That's another reason why I stopped shopping in places like H&M and Zara, is because I realized that if I didn't wear it, or I, grew out of it or didn't like it anymore, I couldn't get any money back for it. So it was like a false economy because now I'm stuck with it. So if you actually try and buy something a bit better, you can get really good return on your investment, I guess. If you think of it as an investment. So that was another reason for me to kind of buy better, apart from and I think once you start to make these conscious choices, what happens is, like, the less that I go into shops like Zara or H&M, the more that when I do go in there, because sometimes I have to go in there for work, I'm kind of notice the difference in quality. I notice things that I wouldn't normally notice. So you become a bit more, of a discerning shopper. Um, yeah. And yeah, the same with even things like I've just changed my plastic sponges in my house to natural ones.
Yeah.
And I've just realized that I'm like, this lasts so much longer than the plastic one.
Yeah.
Why haven't I done this all the whole time?
I know, but it's just because there's so many more, and that's the thing. Well, it's like options, because
Yes.
there didn't used to be any other options. And as you were just talking, I was
Yeah.
thinking, like, our local big shopping centre is Bluewater. How amazing if there were actual charity shops in big shopping centres like that. Like
Yes.
there's in our local shopping centre, like that we go to, there is a couple of charity shops, and I'll
Yeah.
go in there because, well, I'm milling around, I'm having a coffee, I'm working up there or whatever, so I'll walk in. But it's like these big shopping centres that obviously have got designer lanes. You've got in Bluewater, you've got like the triangle, and one is really
Yes.
is like the cheaper one, and then you've got the middle, and then you've got the designer one. What if there was charity shops just slap bang in the middle of the, next to,
Absolutely.
Coast or wherever? I mean, Coast is obviously not. Well, I can't. Do you know? I haven't been to Bluewater for so long. This is the thing. Like, I just don't go shopping for stuff because
Yeah, same.
But having charity shops, like, how many charity shops are there on Oxford Street, for example?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. In those kind of big shopping areas, they're not there. They're not there. They're usually in kind of smaller like I live in Crystal Palace, and we've got great charity shops around here. Streatham is really, really good for
Mm.
charity, amazing for charity shops. In fact, places like Wimbledon, really good for charity shops. If you go to like more affluent areas like that as well, you get really good stuff.
When I was at uni, going to Richmond and going to the charity
Yeah,
shops,
yeah,
it's like, yeah, or Chiswick, you're like, yeah, I'm all
yeah,
right
yeah,
here. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no,
Oh, that's
yeah.
I honestly, I could talk about this all day. Like, I really could,
Mm.
because I think I mean, we intended before we started recording, I was like, I really want to talk about like business sustainability, but
Yeah,
like I said, it's got to sort of start from you and be consciously aware.
yeah,
And I don't think that there is a lot out there that people are talking about, but it is just really it needs to be sort of really front focused, sort of, we have to think
yeah,
about this all the time. Because we can, if you've got time to listen to this podcast episode, then you've
yeah,
got time to consider what you're consuming. So I really like that.
yeah,
But I'm going to start
absolutely.
using your grid repeater
Oh yes,
hashtag.
use it. Do you know
So
what? I
when I'm
need
on
to
there,
talk about it again on Instagram because it's like I had the idea and I was like, this is a really good idea, and then people used it, and then I haven't talked about it for a while, so
yeah,
I
no,
need to
I'm going
talk
to
about it
start,
again.
because I think as well, like, I suppose it's the same for you. Like, when you're, one business of mine is wire art, so that's fine. I can photograph all of that. The other one is my brain in the Vivid Club, so, and the podcast. But having my, like, myself, I don't want to be one of those people. Oh, she's in a different, like, every grid photo.
Yeah,
So I'm going to make sure, I'm going to make a point of, look, I'm wearing the same thing
absolutely.
again. It's
Yeah,
good.
brilliant.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
will.
Yeah, the other thing I should mention actually is if you're not a rummager, like you're not a vintage shop rummager or a charity shop rummager, there are so many more curated, pre-loved clothing websites now.
Mm.
So there's like Manifesto Woman is one of them, the Co-Edit is one of them. Who else? Oh,
God, I
my
haven't
mind's
heard
gone
of
blank.
those.
Yeah, Threads by Jade. She's on Instagram. Curate and Rotate. So many, and they're people who basically go and rummage for you. So essentially they're getting surplus. Oh, One Scoop Store is another one. They're finding all of these um,
Wow.
kind of like pieces that you would expect to see in a normal high street store. Like they've got like a mindset of, what do people want at the moment, and they curate the store so that when you go online it's like shopping from a normal store,
I
but it's
love that.
actually everything's pre-loved. It's
Oh,
so cool.
they are clever people. Well, and
Yeah,
so are you.
it's
You're well clever. And
oh,
I honestly really enjoyed this. It's amazing. I'm like looking at the time thinking, oh God, I've got to do my last question. It's really, really cool. And I just know how many people are going to really enjoy this, because
oh, good.
it's just talking about, like, we are of that generation where clothes are, well, of any generation, I suppose, but we are in that sort of moving out of fast fashion. Because like, I just think about kids at school now, like they're not thinking about fast fashion, they're thinking about
Hope not.
sustainability
Yeah,
already. Like it's already ingrained in them, so
yeah,
they don't have to do the shift. But our generation are the ones that have really got to push that
yeah,
change and talking about it and making it a
definitely.
topic in with our friends, to sort of like, do you know what, I'm not buying a new outfit this week, I
Yeah,
feel really good, and
absolutely.
it being socially acceptable to wear the same thing over and over again. Because I think like it's like a hierarchy, isn't it? Because it
Yeah,
shows affluence if you are got a new outfit all the time.
yeah.
But
But
actually,
then, but then actually, you know, this is a funny story. My mum met Mary Berry the other day
oh
at,
wow,
I think it was at a wedding. And for whatever reason, I Googled Mary Berry after she said, "Oh, look," and sent a picture of her. And I Googled her, and the picture that came up was Mary Berry receiving, I think it was an MBE, in this outfit that she's wearing, standing next to my mum in the
oh
picture from that
wow,
day. And I was like, see, see, outfit repeater. I love
love it.
this.
That is
Yeah,
Mary Berry, you absolute legend. Oh, I
yeah.
love that. So my on these episodes at the end, I always like to ask the guests, and right now I sometimes mess this up because it's in one mouthful. Okay, what would you wish you'd known 10 years ago that you know now? I did it. That's okay.
It's such a hard question. I really
Yeah.
thought about this because 10 years ago, I was in I was in Australia. I'd been there 6 months, and I was just about to quit my job, and because I was like, this job does not suit me. I love Australia, but I do not like this job. And I knew it was a risk because to stay in Australia, I needed to find another job that would sponsor me.
Yeah.
But I did in the end, and it all worked out. I think I was a bit stressed about it, but I actually, like, when I look back and I thought, what was I doing 10 years ago? I feel like I was almost more kind of um, adventurous and not afraid of things that, might seem scary to other people, like quitting my job, living abroad, and being like, okay, I've got 6 months to find something else.
Yeah.
So if anything, I'm like, my 10 years ago self needs to tell me now that things work out and you can take risks, because I feel like my
I love
myself,
that.
yeah, I feel like myself now, I've taken lots of risks in the past with my business and things like that. And over the last few years, things have been really up and down with my business, and I've gone into this space where I'm like a bit like, oh, things are quite scary, and should I take the safe route, and what should I do next? And I've kind of got in my head a bit about putting myself out there. And so when I reflect on 10 years ago, I'm like, you quit that job that didn't serve you. You lived in another country. You didn't know if you were going to be able to stay. And you had 6 months to work it out, and you did it. So I actually think my 10-year-old ago self needs to give me some advice.
It sounds, yeah, go on. What would Natalie Binns do? She'd
So,
be getting
yeah,
herself out there.
yeah, absolutely. It's crazy. Like back then, I was just like, I don't like this job, but I love this country. I'm sure I'll find a way, and there's a better way than staying in this job I hate. So I'm just gonna wing it and see what happens.
I love that.
And yeah, I think I had 6 months to leave, and I think I got a job at about 5 months. I think my sponsorship came through about a week before I was like technically was going to have to leave the country. Although by that
Ooh.
point, I'd dug my heels in, and what I was going to do is go to New Zealand for a week and then come back in on a new visa.
Ah, I
by
like
that
it.
point, by that point, I was like, I'm not leaving. I'll buy myself another 3 months. I'll find a way.
I love that. Oh, that's good. Do you know, no one's ever said that about what they use. It's funny how like you think back to yourself. Usually it's the other
Yeah,
way. So there you
yeah,
go. That was
yeah.
good process for you then.
Yeah, it really was actually. Yeah, and actually, I didn't actually plan to give that as an answer. I kind of was thinking about it, and I was like, no, actually, the answer is that I was I was in a really good mindset then. So I need a bit more of that now.
Oh, I love it. Thank you. Honestly, Natalie, thank you so much. I've
No
really, really
worries.
loved this
Me
episode.
too.
And if you've stayed with it, because I was saying before, when you come on the podcast, I always say to the guests, like, oh, the episodes are normally about 45 minutes. And every single time I actually say 45 minutes, I need to say half an hour because I always go over. But this was a quality one and
Oh, good.
really, really loved it. Thank you so much, Natalie.
No
Where can
worries.
people find you?
Oh, you can find me on Instagram. It's at Natalie_Binns, and also LinkedIn. If you're into sustainability and sustainable business, then I'm always on there kind of talking about that and ranting about brands that are greenwashing and not doing the right things. So if that's your thing, then that you can find me on LinkedIn as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Natalie.
No worries.
Thank you. See you
Thank
later.
you. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to the No Rest for the Vivid podcast, written, produced and hosted by Claire Hill, and music has been composed by my brother, Bill Vick.